All right, so guys, the Jets can't go after Lamar Jackson. I love Lamar Jackson as much as the next guy. He's one of my absolute favorite players in the NFL, but it makes literally zero sense for the Jets. And I'm going to explain exactly why. First off, they need to go after Derek Carr. And I'm also going to explain why. The Jets, 2 years in a row, have started three different quarterbacks. All three are the same back-to-back seasons, but you're starting three quarterbacks in a season. That's not ideal. It's not conducive to winning football. And I'm sorry, Mike White being your best quarterback this year is not as great of a thing as you would hope. Mike White showed promise as a high-priority backup. Mike White did also show that he's just not quite a franchise quarterback. He's not quite a starter in this league. And that's okay. That's just what he is. But if you're going to tell me that a team that had to use Chris Streveler and benched Zach Wilson in a game, if you're going to tell me that team doesn't need, or wouldn't take a Derek Carr, I don't know what to tell you. Derek Carr has one thing that none of these quarterbacks seem to have. It is durability. Derek Carr has barely missed games. I know he had the back issue in the playoffs, and everyone brings that up. But here's the thing. Carr in the regular season hasn't had any issues, if you really think about it. He averages 15.7 games per year, and they just switched to 17. And at the tail end of this year, he was benched by Josh McDaniels. So when you look at Derek Carr, there's a lot to like. This is a guy that's a constant 4,000-yard passer, can throw 30 touchdowns, and it also doesn't hurt that he is tied the last 2 years in come from behind victories with Tom Brady. So look, Derek Carr, I really like this move, and I like it because while it's not flashy, it's the right move. Breece Hall looked like the best running back in football when he went down with the torn ACL. That Jets offense was top 10 with Breece Hall, and without him, they were nothing. Okay. I think a lot of that had to do with the unsure, basically not knowing what you're going to have at quarterback. And obviously, Derek Carr would help. But you also have weapons like Garrett Wilson. You have a good tight end room. You also have Michael Carter, who I didn't mention, in that backfield. In addition to that, the offensive line is good. They have talent. They showed it. Elijah Vera Tucker showed it. But guys like that went down. Dwayne Brown isn't planning on retiring. It sounds like he's going to come back. I don't think the offensive line is that big of an issue. I think they just need to stay healthy, which is definitely fair. But even still, it's the defense for me. Derek Carr probably has never seen a defense in his entire career like the Jets had last year. And if the Jets have any bit of that defense last year, this year, then you can say all bets are off. The Jets are definitely going to be a contender coming into this year. They're 7-10. They're coming off a 7-10 season. The season's not even over with. But I have no doubt that if Derek Carr was on the Jets in 2022, they would be in the playoffs. And the question is, would they be playing this weekend? I think that is a very real thing to wonder. Even with all those injuries, a lot of those games, the defense kept it close. They were on the field a lot, but they kept it close despite the offense not scoring many points. I really think Carr would change things. I think Carr would change things for Mike LaFleur, the offensive coordinator who was run out of town. I believe that. So how would they even do this? How would they get Derek Carr? Well, it takes two to tango. Luckily for the Jets, if you want Derek Carr, he's probably never been easier to be had right now. He already posted that, social media thing, was like, hey, guys, I'm out of here. Appreciate you. I wish it was different, so forth. For whatever reason, the Raiders aren't moving on from McDaniels. They'll probably continue using him. And I do think Tom Brady will end up going to the Raiders and playing with him. But regardless, they're not getting rid of McDaniels. McDaniels is kind of done with Derek Carr, kind of pushed him out. We saw that. And I think that's, it's unfortunate, right? It's unfortunate it went down that way. Carr, somebody that just signed a 3-year, $121.5 million extension just last year. So, it's upsetting to see a guy like that who's played, so long for the Raiders go through that. But at the same time, it is a business. We always hear that, but didn't really like the way that went down. But here's the thing, okay? Derek Carr needs a change of scenery. We know that. We know that he can succeed in this league. And we know that him with a good defense can only make things better. I mean, we've already seen this with Matthew Stafford. So here's the thing. It's true, he has a no-trade clause. I know everyone brings it up. But I'm not entirely convinced, first off, that he's going to have to be traded. Because I could see the Raiders cutting him outright. They have a very set amount of time before Derek Carr is going to be, they're going to be on the hook for $40 million of Derek Carr's deal. I'm just saying, the deadline is coming up and it is going to be a problem. I mean, it is right in February. They don't have a lot of time. There is definitely going to be an issue there. If they don't prepare for it, there's going to be an issue. And I feel like, for me, when you look at the Stafford deal that happened right before the Super Bowl, there have been deals in the past that happened right before the Super Bowl. The Alex Smith deal, everybody talks about that. The one where, the Chiefs traded him away. Look, deals happen before the Super Bowl. It's happened before. The Raiders have to get this thing done one way or the other. It's either going to be we get assets for Derek Carr and we trade him, or we get nothing for him and we cut him. And honestly, nothing for him and we cut him still works for them because of so much money that is going to be on the hook. They just can't take on $40 million for a guy they know doesn't want to be there. He's not the future. They've moved on from him. He's moved on from them. It's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He's gone, regardless to be a trade or cut. So I'm not convinced the Jets will have to trade for him. If they do, at most, it's going to be like a first rounder, right? First rounder, conditional second, third, whatever. I think that's what you're looking at. It's not going to be a Matthew Stafford situation where, you're dealing with somebody that is definitely better than Derek Carr there. We already knew that. And so he took 2 first rounders, Jared Goff, all that, whatever. But this is not Russell Wilson either. This is not Deshaun Watson. This is more closer to the vein of, trading away a Carson Wentz. I think it's definitely above Matt Ryan because of where he is in his where he is in his career, right? But it's more of the vein of the Carson Wentz deal and the Sam Bradford deal, right? Back when he would get traded constantly. That's how I see it. So I think Derek Carr, at the worst, the Jets are giving up a second round, maybe a first round pick for him. But I'm not guaranteeing he even gets traded. What I will say is that the Jets have competition for him. One of those teams that I thought would be competition has reportedly been out of the race. They don't want to trade for Carr. They're not interested. And I think it makes a lot of sense. It's the Indianapolis Colts. I would have to imagine the Indianapolis Colts are coming in, brand new head coach who they have not decided yet. And they've kind of told, I would assume, in those interviews, like, hey, look, you know what we're going to do? Essentially, we're going to be like, you know what? Let's go out. Let's get a CJ Stroud. Let's trade up, number 1 overall, number 2 overall, get CJ Stroud, get Bryce Young, somebody like that, maybe Anthony Richardson, and develop them. This is going to be a rebuild. We have the talent, but we really want to make sure we get our quarterback. We can't keep going through trading for veterans. That would be the definition of insanity. So that I understand why Carr is out of the table for that. But the Texans are in play, despite the fact they have all those picks. Why do you have to just spend it on a quarterback if now you have the second pick and not the first? If you don't like Stroud or you don't like Young and the other one gets picked, the one that you like, well, I don't know about you, but if I'm the Texans, I'm not necessarily selling out for that. I might just consider bringing in Carr. I know it gives people nightmares because David Carr, but it's a completely different team and it's obviously way better. With those picks and everything, and not just an entire, team that was an expansion draft. But the Texans are in play. The Commanders are certainly in play. I have no idea where they're going with that. They kept Ron Rivera. They fired Scott Turner, so there could be a different, thing there. The Panthers are certainly in play. I think they have a really good defense that can compete. They have some weapons. I think Carr could definitely go there. Carr could go to Tampa and replace Tom Brady. Tom Brady could go to the Raiders. There could be a sign and trade for the two, which would be very weird. They played in a Super Bowl against each other, and Tampa won. But I could see Tampa. I could see the Titans. A lot of people are, pinpointing Aaron Rodgers going there. And I think a lot of people see Aaron Rodgers going there because of the culture of just, being in Nashville, Tennessee. It just kind of fits where he's at in his career. But at the same time, I could see Derek Carr. I mean, why go from Ryan Tannehill to, Aaron Rodgers and pay all that money to Aaron Rodgers when you could go and get Carr? I mean, he's still going to be expensive, but you probably don't have to give up as much. And yeah, I could see the Titans. I could see the Falcons. If they're done with Desmond Ridder, if that was a 1-year project and not even a full year, then yeah, I could see that. And then the Saints. Who is the quarterback for the Saints? Carr is certainly an option. The best option is the Jets. Okay, we know what they're going to be as long as they get a quarterback. I see a scenario here. I envision a scenario where the Jets hire either Joe Brady, who was the former offensive coordinator for the Panthers. I feel like he got a raw deal. We saw, and unfortunately, I like Rule, but Matt Rule just didn't translate to the NFL. And I feel like, Joe Brady was kind of the guy that got, the short end of the stick. He's the quarterback coach in Buffalo. For me, I feel like Joe Brady is definitely going to be a offensive coordinator again. But the question is, how soon is it? I think it could be this run, especially if Ken Dorsey gets hired, but as a head coach somewhere, then I think Joe Brady would end up being the offensive coordinator for the Bills. So one way or another, I think he does get an offensive coordinator job, and I think the Jets would make a lot of sense. He's got play calling experience. He's a young guy, so I know people would be like, shades of Mike LaFleur, a little worried, all that. I wouldn't. I think the thing about Carolina is, who did he have to utilize in Carolina? Who was his quarterback? And that's the thing. I think, you have Derek Carr, and all of a sudden Joe Brady is doing a lot with Derek Carr. And I think people look at it, Joe Brady was a hot name because LSU, he was part of that offense with Joe Burrow, and he got credit for Burrow. But I think people forget, obviously we know now, but Joe Burrow was really good in college. It wasn't just Joe Brady getting his, he wasn't getting the talent out of him. He was already very good. And, I feel like Joe Brady having a legit quarterback would go really well for the Jets. But if it's not him, Frank Reich. Look, Frank Reich, I've said many times for the Rams, I like having that veteran offensive coordinator. Guy's had way more experience calling plays than, not way more, because he really hasn't had that much experience except for his stop with the Colts as the head coach. But he's had more experience calling plays than Joe Brady. To me, you get a play caller, you get him in there. You don't want to go with another guy who's not a play caller, who has to play call for the first time. I think Frank Reich and Joe Brady make sense for that reason. I just feel like you give one of those OCs to Carr and you let it ride. I mean, it's his first really good defense of his career. They're going to have his back. It's a system that he can thrive in. Hopefully that's the hope here. I just think Carr is talented, but he's at a point in his career where he needs a change of scenery. And I think the Jets give him that. I think the Jets are an exciting team to go to because, they are the kind of the guys that get pushed around essentially in New York. I mean, you got the Giants right now in the playoffs. It's Giants country, all that people say. And I just feel like with the Jets, you bring in a guy like Carr, and Carr comes to the Jets, and it's an opportunity to kind of show off to the rest of the world, like, hey, I turn this thing around, right? So that's a big thing for me, and why I like Carr going there. I like it for his brand. Say what you will. Obviously, you're leaving Vegas. You were with Oakland. I think he wants to go somewhere. If he's going to choose anywhere, it has to make sense for him. And I understand, he might want to stay out west, and that's fine. But if you're going to go east, you got to go to New York. You know, you got to go to the plate. Like, it's got to be a New York. It's got to be a California for the brand. And I think this is going to work out well for him. I think this is ultimately where he goes. Right now, he is the Jets are the Vegas odds favorite to land Derek Carr. And I'm not saying Derek Carr instantly does the Matthew Stafford for the Rams and he wins the Super Bowl for the Jets. I'm not saying that. But I wouldn't rule out anything like that, because while Derek Carr has his moments and he does turn the ball over at times and really bad times, let's be honest here. Josh McDaniels has not worked as a head coach, okay? And Derek Carr, he gave the Raiders fans something to root for. Like, they never felt out of it with Derek Carr. They never felt like a team that was the worst in the league with Derek Carr. So you get the weapons in Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, the tight ends, really like Conklin there. And then the running backs. I mean, I already mentioned Hall, but also, Michael Carter, and then Bam Knight, who had a pretty good season as a rookie, UDFA. And then, you look at everything he's got on the offensive line. Obviously there has to be improvement with Laken Tomlinson, but Elijah Vera Tucker, before he got hurt, was playing really good ball. Mekhi Becton will be back. So I am excited about the possibility of all that. And then the defense included. Joe Douglas has put together a very good roster. There is a foundation here, and they're really a quarterback away. Woody Johnson said that, but I really do believe that. And unfortunately for Zach Wilson, I'm not even going to lie. I mean, there's a chance that it wasn't really his fault. And I mean, partially it was his fault, but there's a chance that he just really never had a chance in this situation, because the Jets were so much further ahead of where they expected to be, that the pressure just started piling on to Zach Wilson, especially this year. This 7-10 team should have made the playoffs. Let's be honest here. So looking at this team, I think Woody Johnson knows this team should be winning 10 games at least next year, if not 11 or 12. And he knows that they need a quarterback. And unfortunately for Zach Wilson, that doesn't look good for you. I wouldn't be surprised if they make a trade for, Carr, that Zach Wilson's included in that. And maybe you look at a scenario where it's Tom Brady and Zach Wilson. Tom Brady is mentoring Zach Wilson in Vegas. Look, Derek Carr turns 32 March 28th. He is going to be around at least until 35, 36 for the Jets if it works out. He's not around forever, but that still gives you 3 to 4 years of a window with this type of defense that you've built. And I think they need to go ahead and do it. I know there's going to be people that are against trading for Derek Carr because he's not the big option. They're going to be against not, pulling out all the stops to go after Lamar Jackson. But here's the thing. The Jets are deciding between trading for a guy like Derek Carr, who they should be at this point considered the favorite to go and acquire, signing Jimmy Garoppolo, who I thought made more sense before Mike LaFleur was fired, because that connection there. So you have those two. And then in addition to that, you got Baker Mayfield, who may or may not come back to the Rams as the backup quarterback. And, are you going to start him? Is it going to be more of that's the thing. And if, Woody Johnson really wants to stick by his guns and say, we're going to go after a quarterback and actually do it, he needs to go after a quarterback where no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Zach Wilson is not beating this guy in camp. He's not. So Derek Carr is that guy. And Derek Carr is a top 15 quarterback. I think at his best, he can push the top 7. Being 7th, of course, I'd probably say 7 to 15 for him is a good bet. And I think this is a great opportunity for him. I think it's a great opportunity for the Jets. They showed a lot of promise last year. I understand Jets fans are upset about the way the season ended, and I get it. You start off the way you do, and then you finish the way you do. It's brutal. But this defense showed you very much so they are legit. They are a quarterback away. Maybe they need some other pieces, no doubt about it. They don't have much linebacker help on the roster. They could use another offensive lineman. They could use a safety. There are things that they can change, but they are a quarterback away from being a clear-cut playoff team, in my opinion. and maybe you fill out all of those options that I just mentioned, and then you're looking at a Super Bowl. I have no doubt in my mind, as long as Carr has an offensive coordinator that works with him and doesn't, he's not a hard ass like McDaniels reportedly was, or, basically was, then I think he'll be fine. I think Carr needs somebody to work with him. And I think Carr's emotional. I think Carr, there are people that worry, because they see the video about him crying and everything. I think he just loves the game. I think he's an emotional player. I think he puts it all on the line. I think at the end of the day, I get worrying about the New York media ripping him apart, but I think the fans are going to rally around a guy like this. This would be the best quarterback the Jets have had. I think he's better than Favre when they had him. This would be the best quarterback the Jets have had since probably Chad Pennington, if not further. I mean, I would probably say he's better than Pennington, but that's just me. One of the best quarterbacks in Jets history, day one. I don't know how you don't make this move. You're right in the thick of it. Go and make the move, Jets. I think it makes a lot of sense. So hopefully, the Jets, they're the Vegas odds favorite to land the former Fresno State quarterback and Raiders franchise quarterback. But hopefully it happens, because I think the Jets are, they're exciting. There's a lot to like. Joe Douglas has built this team the right way. Robert Saleh has built this culture the right way. And I'm excited to find out who they hire. And I'm excited to find out who's their signal caller come 2023. Because I'll say this right now. I was all for Jimmy Garoppolo until they let go of Mike LaFleur. Now I don't see the connection. I really don't, if I'm being honest. So that's what I have for you guys. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. There will be more videos coming soon. But until next time, you guys take care. Later, folks.